In the 19th century, when Texas was still a Spanish territory and later become a Mexican territory, a lot of Americans saw the vast, cheap land that was available in Texas. They would move there, buy land, become ranchers, and eventually Texas to become part of the United States. And when the Civil War broke out, a lot of them went to go fight in the war, but their African American slaves had to be left behind and maintain and take care of the land. So they developed a lot of skills that would become invaluable in the cattle industry. Now, after the Emancipation Proclamation, one of the few jobs that were available to the now freed slaves was being a cowboy. And Nike, for this year's Black History Month, even though they're like way late, Black History Month was 3 months ago, but to celebrate the history of black cowboys in the United States, they're coming out with this special shoe. Nike SB Dunk Tourmaline. The shoe is dropping on May 7th for $135 in the United States. And first impressions of this shoe. I really love the details and the subtle, maybe not so subtle, but the storytelling overall on the shoe that I'll get to later. But in terms of just looking at the colorway and the aesthetics of this shoe, like in a vacuum by itself, I'm not like a huge fan. I think this green is a little too minty. Yellow is a bit too out there. There are little parts that I do like, and I'll get more to that later, but overall, just as a colorway, I don't see myself like pulling this off very effectively. But that's just me. That's my opinion. I prefer more like subtle, kind of earthy, just kind of lower key type of colorways. So yeah, everyone has their own preferences. And the materials on this shoe, you get this very distinct type of suede, and it's not like super hairy. I usually don't love that super hairy type of suede. It's kind of buffed down, but it does feel pretty smooth and nice to the touch. And then on the swoosh itself, it does feel more like nubuck. That doesn't feel like super premium or anything. Now moving on to the ankle collar, that is that brown suede again. And then on the heel of the shoe, you see this Sonora style stitching pattern that is meant to resemble the patterns and artistry that you find on like cowboy boots. And then on the booty of the shoe, where you see that Nike tab, that is leather, like the tab itself. Now the Nike branding, the way it's stitched, that's meant to resemble like a lasso, playing into the whole storytelling of the shoe. And then on the bottom of the heel counter here, you see like a Western star. I'm not exactly like plugged into cowboy culture and the lifestyle, so forgive me if I'm using some terms incorrectly. And then moving up the tongue, you see a regular Nike SB Dunk Pro tongue. So it's kind of like puffier than a non-Nike SB Dunk. And the tongue itself, it's got this kind of like corduroy type of look and material. And then on the inside of the tongue, you see this tag that has that same Western star, and it says certified for the real riders, crafted for the modern cowboy. And then the laces on the shoe out of the box, you see these rope-like white laces, again, playing into the theme of the shoe. And this does come with one extra set of laces. So white out of the box, and then the other set of laces, it is this mint tourmaline green. Out of the two, I think definitely the white, for me at least, it pops a bit more. So I'm going with white laces. Now, another thing that is different between an SB Dunk and a non-SB Dunk is you see these straps in the SB Dunks that is meant to hold the tongue in place. So remember, this is officially like a skateboarding shoe. So you don't want your tongue to move around a bit too much when you're skateboarding. So that's one extra addition there. And I'll get more to sizing and comfort later. But one thing to note is there's this satin lining all across the ankle lining here and inside the shoe, as well as behind the tongue. And that can affect how you size the shoe, because it can feel kind of slippery if you don't get like your sizing very perfectly. Now moving on to cushioning, the Nike SB Dunks comes with a rubber cupsole with a Zoom Air unit on the heel. That is one addition they made to the SB Dunks versus the non-SB Dunk. And on the outsole of the shoe, you see the semi-translucent type of pinkish red outsole. Another difference is the SBs have more concentric circles here. That is meant to increase like the friction with the skateboard, provides more grip when you're skateboarding. And of course, you get that Nike SB cutout in yellow. I think I would have preferred like a different color in that cutout. Usually I really like those pink Nike SB cutouts on like the Yuto Dunks, the Born and Raised Dunks. I think that just looks pretty cool. But yeah, yellow cutout it is. And the insole of the shoe, you'll see this custom graphic. It is different on each shoe, kind of paints like an overall type of story. but the quality of it is pretty standard for an SB Dunk. You get that Zoom Air pod on the heel, and then you get this pour-on material on the large forefoot area over here. And the pour-on material is softer and squishier. It is meant for skateboarding when you like land. It's better for impact absorption. And what's also kind of interesting about the insoles are it's actually satin lined as well. So it's got this smooth type of aesthetic and texture to it. Now the box of the shoe, pretty standard SB box. It is a sale era. The paper inside is nothing special, but you do get this handkerchief with a cowboy in the middle with some cattle. Very cool, with a Nike SB flag in the background there. And at the very bottom, it says 100% fast. What's gonna happen is gonna happen. Would I ever actually use this handkerchief? Nope. But do I really love getting extras when I unbox a shoe? Absolutely. Now in terms of sizing and comfort, I am a wide and flat footer for SB Dunks. Recently, I've been going up half a size. So usually when I've gone true to size for SB Dunks, it does work, but it just takes a while to break in the forefoot area. For the shoe, I went up half a size. It fits pretty well. Gave my forefoot some breathing room. Now, if you don't have wide and flat feet, I definitely recommend you go true to size. And the reason for that is if you went up half a size and you want to wear it like kind of loose, the ankle lining here, that is satin. It can feel kind of slippery. So if you don't have wide and flat feet and you don't go true to size, you go up half a size, yeah, that may be a bit too much room. Now in terms of overall comfort, like under your feet, the SBs adds a Zoom Air unit on the heel. It also has that pour-on material on the forefoot of the insole that provides like a bit more softness, especially for like skateboarding when you're landing for better impact absorption. So under feet, even though the rubber cup sole, it is very durable, that is good for skateboarding. It's not like the most plush or like the softest type of cushioning, but overall I think it's decent for casual use anyway. I've never skateboarded in my life, so if you want to get a second opinion on how this shoe would feel skateboarding, like actively, yeah, definitely get a second opinion. It is definitely not like the lightest shoe. Again, a rubber cup sole has barely any weight savings. It's like a pretty heavy type of tech setup. But again, if you're just kind of like walking around, casual use for an SB Dunk, it is pretty comfortable. And that brings the total sole score of the Nike SB Dunk Low Tourmaline to 36 out of 50. A pretty decent score compared to other special releases. Now first, it is colorway. I don't love like the green, like in a vacuum, like remove all the storytelling and the theme of the shoe aside. I'm just not in love with that color. It looks a bit too minty for me. So yeah, I'm not in love with the colorway, but there are parts of it that I really like the tan type of lining around the panels, the off-white type of laces, and the red on the tag on the tongue. Yeah, I like those parts, but overall, just looking at colorway itself, I'm not in love with it. And in terms of the materials, I think the suede is actually pretty nice. It's not like super hairy suede that I personally don't prefer. It's nothing like super premium, but does feel pretty nice to the touch. And in terms of the overall comfort, the SBs I think are decently comfortable. It's not as good as like modern day shoes that are meant for comfort, like that's their main selling point. It is still a pretty old shoe with old technology, but if you're just wearing it for casual use, shouldn't have any problems. And in terms of the versatility of this shoe, the SBs are a super wearable silhouette. You can wear it casually for skateboarding, even like semi-formal occasions, but the wearability of this colorway, it's a bit out there. This mint green is not exactly like the most versatile type of colorway and base that you can come up with. The yellow, especially with that satin lining material, it can be a bit too shiny and like bold and kind of out there. And again, when I talk about versatility, I'm not talking about whether you can pull it off. You might be special, you may be able to pull off anything, but talking about versatility in a vacuum, how it appeals to like a general audience, how they can wear it. Yeah, I think the colors are a bit too bright, a bit too bold. So versatility of the shape of an SB Dunk, very good. Wearability of the colorway though, not the best. And in terms of the storytelling, I love the storytelling on the shoe. From the rope-like laces, to the little message inside the tongue, to the insoles itself, to the handkerchief that they give you out of the box, to the stitching around the heel, wrapping around to the star on the heel counter, even this lasso design on the Nike branding here, all of it is really well done. It's kind of in your face, but it all kind of makes sense. I've always been a huge sucker for like storytelling on shoes. I know a lot of people think collaborations are overhyped or special releases are overhyped. They kind of prefer OG colorways, which I still love, but sometimes storytelling on a shoe, on a sneaker, can make you go and like research the history of whatever inspiration that exists on the sneaker. And that's what I really love. I had no idea about any history of cowboys. It's like My impression is what I see on the media, like on TV. That's what a cowboy looks like. But when you dig into the history, it's actually pretty fascinating. And this shoe, even though in a vacuum, I'm not like in love with the colorway, but the storytelling nature of it, the inspiration, the origin story, yeah, I definitely love it. That's it. Thanks for watching. Sol Inclined. Let me know what you think of the Nike SB Dunk Low Tourmaline Black History Month. Like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. And remember, tomorrow may never come, so wear your shoes